Secretary, welcome. I have been deeply concerned by the fact that recently a number of states have had to work to address what appear to be chronic wasting disease outbreaks or contaminations in the wild, resulting from outbreaks originating in captive breeding facilities. So I want to ask you what steps the department is taking, one, to prevent this from reoccurring, and are you considering convening an emergency meeting of the CWD Interagency Task Force?
Senator, I don't know the answer to the second question. Be happy to check on that, but I will tell you that our budget does contain additional resources under the APHIS budget for chronic wasting disease and the research that's involved in that and the treatment that's involved. So it is an area that we are aware, and it's an area that is specifically a specific focus of APHIS.
I would urge you to consider convening that task force because the potential impacts here are enormous and could have literally permanent impacts on the ability and the rates of hunting in communities where this has occurred. I know you know a little bit, Secretary, about acequias. For my colleagues, they are many centuries old irrigation structures that serve as the primary method of irrigation in many communities in New Mexico. And they're really a central part of New Mexico's cultural identity. So I want to thank you, first off, for your work to pause last year's policy change on NAP payments, which had stopped covering drought claims on acequia irrigated lands. While this temporary pause has provided some very much needed relief to our farmers, especially given the current drought, I think they need an assurance that FSA's administration of the program is going to remain consistent into the future. So moving forward, what is the department doing to ensure that drought impacts on acequia irrigated lands remain an eligible loss for NAP payments?
Senator, let me check on that. I think we have made an effort to try to get that resolved, and it doesn't make sense to get it resolved and then have it pop up again. So it does seem to make sense that it would be a consistent policy from this point forward. But I want to double check and make sure that I'm offering you accurate information about that. I would also point out that we continue to look for ways to provide help and assistance with drought-related issues. I mentioned earlier the EQIP program has announced a drought an effort of around $40 million that might be of some help.
Thank you for your attention to that. All of these things are sort of interconnected. Obviously, you heard from the senator from Mississippi about the level of impact from some of these extreme weather events that are associated with climate change. I've quit using the word drought. I now call it aridification because we are in such a permanent change of precipitation in the state of New Mexico that we're struggling with how to live with not just a little less, but a lot less. So one of the things I've done is recently I partnered with Congressman Pingree in the House to introduce the Agricultural Resilience Act. The bill would expand voluntary USDA conservation programs, bolster some new and existing state soil health programs like the Healthy Soils Program in New Mexico, boost USDA climate research, and increase investments on on-farm renewable energy. Do you think that these efforts would help our farmers meet the goal of net zero emissions in agriculture, while also potentially helping them just become more resilient to the kind of extreme weather events that we're seeing?
I do, Senator, and that's why we're basically encouraging NRCS to focus its programs, its existing programs, and any increases to those programs on the 45 practices that we know are climate smart to be able to enhance and encourage. And I think part of the challenge, of course, is that we want to make sure that farmers receive credit for the work that they're doing and acknowledge that there's a financial cost associated with these steps, and we want to be a partner.
And I assume programs like EQIP that you mentioned are really critical to
EQIP, CSP, CREP, CRP, all of the programs that we have are really designed in part and should be designed to encourage climate smart agricultural practices and soil health.
Great.
initiatives.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Heinrich.